Yellow, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to use dirt cheap rules to break something that makes dirt cheap rules, but it follows dirt cheap rules, but then you can not worry about the dirt cheap rule of screw it, we're gonna make honey. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. So no honey blocks, no sticky blocks, no sticky pistons is one of the rules of dirt cheap. But today we're going to make a dirt cheap honey or honeycomb farm. So just a quick reminder of what dirt cheap is on this channel. We're considering it all overworld materials that you can get with unenchanted iron tools. So basically, if you are an early game player, if you are afraid of the nether, you don't want to mess with it, we're going to bypass all that. So no obsidian, you don't even need diamond tools, no ice, coral fans, anything with silk touch. So no enchantments needed for that. Nothing out of the nether, so that means no quartz, which means no observers and comparators. That's the one that really hits. No nether materials of any kind, so you don't even have to have lit a portal before. We say no slime and no sticky pistons. Again, we've talked about this. Slime not that expensive, especially with swamp slime farms or just going to a swamp and finding it, but it is dependent on you finding a swamp then. So we're just taking sticky out of it completely, which normally means that we include honey bottles. So we're going to follow those rules to make this farm, but this is going to produce us honey bottles, which means we can get honey blocks. Now, before I get into the explanation of this, there is going to be a world download of this down in the video description, so everything you see in the video will be available in that world download. Head down to the video description, download that. You can take a schematic, you can mess around with yourself, break it, hang out with bees, whatever you want to do. All right, I'm going to change the dirt back to my retextured yellow terracotta so that you guys can kind of see what's going on with the block count here. But yeah, basically what we have is kind of your bulk standard normal front end honey farm here. There's bee nests, there's flowers, they pollinate the flowers, they go into the hive. But normally what you do is you detect that honey level. So if I turn on my mini HUD, I can see honey level 3 with a comparator. But in dirt cheap, we're not using comparators, so that doesn't do anything. Not to mention, normally we just, take our output of the farm that's, honey bottles or glass bottles, and we sort those out in some way so that we can just make sure that we're only getting those. Or what you do is you fill up a dispenser completely full of glass bottles so that when you actually set off the dispenser, there's no open slots left for the honey bottle to go into, and the honey bottle shoots out and you collect it that way. That does mean you need to keep 14 stacks of glass bottles in each slice in order to keep it stable. And I mean, glass bottles are dirt cheap, yeah, because you can just make them from sand. You can buy some glass from the librarians, but 14 stacks of it, yeah. So we have two issues we need to conquer. One, how do we set off the dispensers to take the honey out? And two, how do we make sure that we can get the honey bottles out and not have to build up a literal buttload of glass? So for the first part, I thought about this with using a dirt cheap bud. So I haven't used this before, but this is a bud. It's a block update detector. So when a block updates next to this piston, it actually fires off. And we could take that torch signal right there and use that to do some counting. So you could use like the dirt cheap counting piston feed tapes that we've seen in the dirt cheap series. But at that point, like, this is a one wide tileable, and making a piston feed tape for that is going to get kind of ridiculous just to count to 5. And the reason this type of farm usually isn't clocked, because if you activate the dispenser when the honey isn't filled, so you can see up there I'm honey level 3, then it spits out an empty glass bottle, which is what you don't want. But that got me thinking about shears and honeycomb farms. So you can see right here, this one is full, and if I put a glass bottle in, it doesn't actually spit out anything. It sucks the honey bottle back in, and that's normally what we're preventing by filling it up. But what if we just flipped the way that we did it? If we didn't collect the spit out honey bottle, we collected the empty glass bottle and then came back later for the honey bottle. Well, what we normally do with honeycomb when we want to actually collect that is we shear it, and then those sheared honeycombs get sucked into the hopper. So why can't we use that for this? So I'm going to put one bottle in there. We're going to see I press the button. Our honey bottle still stays in there. But if I press the button with an empty glass bottle, it goes into the hopper. This is because if you summon an item inside of a block, like a dispenser does, and there is a hopper underneath it, as long as that hopper is unlocked, it can take the item out before the item starts glitching out. So if I go ahead and actually lock this hopper, we're going to see I'm going to use this command block to summon a diamond, and you're going to see it's just going to pop out the side of the block. But if that hopper is unlocked, I can summon it, it's going to go right into the hopper. We saw it for a brief tick there. Sometimes you don't even see it. Problem is, if we leave a honey bottle there, eventually it's just going to start filling up with honey bottles. And, so we'd see it's something like this, and we have some glass bottles, but sometimes it's not actually going to activate. And then eventually, even if we clocked it, it's still going to fill up completely with honey bottles. Then nothing happens to the dispenser. So now farm's done. So what we have here is we have nothing inside of these dispensers. These dispensers are completely empty. So you could start this off, I have these chests of glass bottles here. You could start this off with none of this and just put some glass bottles in a hopper minecart right here. What we're going to see when I turn it on is it's going to go across these hoppers. It's going to put in one item each, and then it's going to hit this detector rail, set off the redstone line, and then activate these dispensers. And if they are empty, they're going to spit a glass bottle into these hoppers, where that same hopper minecart loops back around and picks them back up, so it recycles them. And then shortly after that, so just on a little bit of a delay here, it's going to set off this hopper minecart under the dispensers, picking up any glass bottles that got left behind that are now honey bottles. And I just realized I had an extra rail there. We didn't need that, so I just took that out. And then since this top hopper minecart has to run over here, it has to run a little bit farther and then run back this extra distance. This has plenty of time to return back to its spot and drop its honey bottles inside of that hopper over to our output. So I'm going to turn on this lever, which is the on-off. You don't need this piston sand. Normally on machines, we like to put like a redstone lamp there to show that it's turned on, but since we would need the nether for that, although technically, I just realized I was talking about buying from villagers, you can buy glowstone from clerics and then make a redstone lamp. But still, look, this is even cheaper because now that's our on signal. So that's what it's going to do. We have waterlogged rails here to slow this down just enough to make sure that it can pick up enough bottles to make a profit. So it's got to fill up these 13 hoppers. Then we don't care if there's extra glass bottles in there, because it's going to go under these hoppers here, pick up all the glass bottles that got spit out, and then it'll refill itself. So this is just to refill it if you want to keep that going. If you don't want to grind out all those glass bottles, just put some glass bottles in this hopper minecart, and then every once in a while come over here, craft up your honey, and you get the glass bottles back, put them back into the hopper minecart, you're ready to go. So we can see each time it goes over, it's going to activate that, which activates those dispensers, which gives it time. And then this one runs underneath and picks up any of those honey bottles that we have. And that's really all there is to it. So if it's a glass bottle inside that dispenser and there's no honey level to be picked up, it spits out a glass bottle into here. And so the same one that's putting it back recycles it before it gets refilled. But if it's a honey bottle that stays behind the dispenser, we just pick it up with a separate hopper minecart over to our output. Now, if you want to, you could also put shears inside of here instead of, glass bottles into a hopper minecart. Just put some shears in each of these dispensers. We do still need to have that minecart because that's basically acting as our clock. So you could replace that with a regular minecart or just take these chests out that is going to run underneath. And then I did include a switch over here. We don't actually want to send this hopper minecart anymore because that's basically just going to suck out shears. And then you just need to put some hoppers under this hopper minecart that we see running right now. So maybe a couple of them here or something like that. Just some hoppers that can suck those items out. But, then you'd have to replace them. I didn't really design this as a honeycomb. I didn't really design this as a honeycomb farm. This is primarily a honey bottle farm so we can get honey blocks out of it. Now, you may be saying, Strom, you said no silk touch, but you got a silk touch a bee nest to get it with the bees to stay inside of it. Otherwise, they pop out when you break it. Absolutely right. But everyone in their early days on the server should have at least gotten 2 leads when that first wandering trader showed up and you introduced him to your axe. So when you find that bee nest out there in the wild, you can just grab a couple of bees, bring them back. So when you're out there in the wild and you want to get your bees going, Make sure you grab yourself a campfire and those couple of leads. Put your campfire under that wild bee nest when it gets to its first honey level, and boom, you've got your 3 honeycomb to start up your production. Now you can grab the bees on the lead, and you can take your honeycomb, you can make your first bee hive instead of bee nest, and then you can start breeding them with flowers. Obviously, I recommend getting an iron farm because then you can just use poppies. Hint, hint. Check out my channel. Hint, hint. I mean, I guess you're already on my channel, but... Now, in terms of rates, we are going to get a slightly slower rate than your normal comparator system because we are not emptying that bee nest as soon as it fills up to level 5. However, you can see how often this hopper minecart is running through. The rates are not that much lower. So with these 13, you're still getting about 100 honey bottles per hour out of it. But to me, even more than the observer cost and the comparator cost, something like that, is actually not having to pre-fill this with a bunch of bottles. So I can just start this farm with that many bottles that I have inside the hopper minecart. And excuse me, I was talking there. You know, so just, I mean, heck, as long as you have 13, you can start getting some honey out of it. Because even if you run out of honey bottles, it won't break. So let's say this one on the end stays at honey level 5 because you don't have a bottle to go in there. As soon as you put in more bottles because it's on a clock, it's just going to set it off the next time and it'll reset itself. So that's going to be it for me. I talked entirely way too much about bees there, but look down the video description. Again, there will be a world download where you can check this out. I think I'll probably do one of the PDF manuals for this one because this is quite a small build, so that should show up pretty well in that screenshot style. But that's going to wrap it up for me. Remember, if you are not doing great right now for any reason of your own, do not worry about it. It is okay not to be okay. Keep your chin up. Things will get better, I promise you. But in the meantime, it's okay not to be okay. I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.